Jessica Cook, who's in the film club.
Ooh, I'm not going to tell Ian we're live yet because we want to hear what secrets he's about to share. We are live here at the Center Film Festival. We're live streaming with some really interesting people who are going to share some of their deep, dark secrets with us about their film and filmmaking and how you get t-shirts like that made, protecting hair under hats, and all sorts of other fun things. But before we do, I need to tell you full disclosure. We are actually in the back room of the after party in honor of Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month. We showed our second of 3 films in the series at the State Theater here in Central Pennsylvania in State College. So they're going to be coming in there and taking some questions with that director, Jeff O'Gara. Really terrific film, very powerful, and literally the opposite of this film. That film is sobering in a very different way than Drunk Bus is not sober at all. And what I'm really excited about is this is our very first time, 3 years in, where we have 2 things going on at the same time, and it is official. We can handle it. So next year, you better buckle up. Anyway, I'm Pearl Gluck. I am the artistic director and co-founder of the Center Film Festival here in Happy Valley. And this film, Drunk Bus, which you either just finished watching and you can't wait to talk to them, please do ask questions, or you haven't seen yet and you're going to want to after you listen to this. Either way, this film it wasn't on my radar. I was going after another film for our film festival. And we're going to talk about this a little bit because we're going to do some business talk, but they have an incredible distributor and someone who really went to bat for them, which by the way is rare. Sometimes distributors are really awesome and we need them, but as filmmakers will tell you, sometimes you just have to remind them that you're there. Well, this distributor, FilmRise, did not need a reminder for any of their films. They looked through their entire book and they told me which ones might be a necessary watch for us at the programming committee. And this is because Ian Tarbert, who's right there with the Penn State representation hat on, go Ian, is one of the producers on the film. And I watched the film, the committee watched the film, we couldn't stop watching. It's among so many other amazing films in this festival. I do not envy our jury. And all 4 of the team, or part of the team, of the producing members and 2 of the directors, both of the directors are here with us. So without further ado, you didn't come here to hear me. I'm going to introduce to you the 4 people that we see here tonight, which is John Carlucci, who is the director of Drunk Bus. The other director of Drunk Bus is Brandon how do you pronounce that last name of yours? LaGanke?
That's right.
LaGanke?
No, you said it right the first time.
I did?
Okay.
Right. See, a girl from Brooklyn could figure it out. And we've already talked about Ian Tarbert as the executive producer, and Eric Hollenbeck, who looks familiar, L'chaim, is the producer of Drunk Bus as well. I'm just gonna L'chaim, cheers. I need to be drinking. Instead, I have a bubbly in the back of a cafe, an amazing cafe called Webster's. Cheers, everybody. Welcome to late night at the Center Film Festival. I'm just going to throw it out there, and maybe let's start with whoever it was that came to whomever that said, we got to do this movie. Who's that person? Who started this bus rolling?
Technically, it would be Brandon. It started there. Why don't you start it, Brandon?
No. I mean, okay. Well, no, I mean, it was same time as John, but I guess John's reasoning for making me start is I went to Kent State University, which is it's based off of. So, and I drove the Drunk Bus. So it's kind of like, we thought of the idea based on that job that I had. But then I brought it back, when I moved to New York after Ohio, and I met John, and we started working together. Then, I tell him about this job, and we decided to make a movie into it. And John took the wheel from there, right, John?
So to speak. That's your cue.
We had been working together for a couple of years, and we met at an ad agency, and we started doing night weekends, making music videos and short films, and started thinking it's time to start thinking about our first feature. Maybe it's going to be a horror movie. Maybe it's going to be some weird comedy like Better Off Dead, because that was our favorite film that we bonded over. And Brandon would always tell these stories about shit that would happen on the drunk bus. And the more stories that came out, it's kind of like, this sort of feels like an idea for a film. And excuse me, no one's ever really done a movie about this occupation. We're both big fans of like John Hughes and Kevin Smith, and kind of felt like there's something Clerks-ish about this. And
Yeah, I can see that. Yep.
so it was like Clerks on a bus, and they kind of just went from there. We started to craft our stories together. Now, at the time, I moved jobs to from the agency. We both went to different new jobs, and I went to Tribeca Film, and that's where I met Ian. And I think Ian had always known about this project from its inception.
Really?
Yeah, from Tribeca. And then he went to another PR company, and then he started his own PR company. And, you know, it took us seven years to make this movie. And we'd always check in and be like, what's going on with Drunk Bus? And, you know, we're going to do it with this studio. Now we're not. Now we're over here. And it was always like, well, when the time comes, we'll do it. Let's have that conversation when it comes time. Then when we started to really get the ball rolling, we got some financing finally locked. We started looking at producers, and we were talking to a guy in Ohio because we were dead set on shooting at Kent. We would scouted there a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. We had the school on board. We had the town on board. We had Brandon's original bus company, his old boss, on board. And
yeah, a riot. They were a riot.
This guy, you know, he was like, look, I'm gonna move to Atlanta for a Netflix show, but there's a guy that I know up here who you guys should talk to, and that would be Eric. And you know, he knew we wanted Ohio, and that's where Eric was living at the time. And he was, you know, told us about upstate New York and how we should really consider.
Oh, that's how that happened.
Looking at Rochester. And then I'll pass the wheel over to
Eric. Here comes Eric.
Is he below me? Or?
No.
He's below me.
Yeah, no, it's straight happenstance that a buddy sent me the script, and it was incredibly funny. And then I checked out all the work that Brandon and John have done over the years, and you know, that confirmed like their talent. And I'm like, oh, it's almost like, please let me produce this for you guys.
Wow.
It'll be fun. So,
Eric, where were you in Ohio? Maybe that's why you sound so familiar. What were you doing there?
Oh, no, I was based in Cleveland for a number of years. So
nice.
My previous marriage, we don't need to get into it, but I have a son there.
Subject of the next film, Eric. Subject of the next film.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories there, but yeah, so we moved. We met in North Carolina, moved to Cleveland. Long story short, and
gotcha.
Yeah.
Where does Ian come on board? Or you're already you're part of it as you find.
I was waiting in the wings for 7 years for my opportunity to jump into something that smarter, more successful people were doing, that I could strap my name to their back bumper.
He was way in the back of the bus, like the guy way in.
Like John said, I was in the marketing department at Tribeca Film. We were a day-and-date distribution label, and John and I were good buddies. When I wanted to blow off steam, I would go downstairs to the content floor, and we would hang out and talk about Star Wars, and you know, it was just a good time. And then, like John said, I left that company and went to a marketing label. I'm not a publicist, John. Now we've known each other for a long time, but it's okay.
I said PR company. I didn't say what you did.
It's fine. So that's true. So I do marketing strategy for filmmakers, for film distribution labels, for entertainment brands, and I do that on my own now. And you know, like John said, I've always been in touch with him, and they came to me because John and Brandon are you know, they're advertising guys at their core. They understood the importance of marketing, and I viewed my participation with this film as essentially a marketing producer, which, you know, if you have the budget for some like that sort of role, that can elevate your project so substantially that's what's going to, you know, eventually attract a distributor because you've already built those marketing hooks into the film. So John and Brandon did a really good job of doing that, and that gave us a lot of opportunity to have fun with the festival circuit that we didn't end up getting to have because of COVID. But we had a lot of great plans that we're able to hand off to our great distributor and had a lot of fun with. But yep.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big piece of it, is with COVID, trying to get a film out. We learned a lot about another way to engage audiences, but there was like a hiccup there. There was a feeling of we're not engaging audience. Now there's a whole new way, trying to figure out the details there, but it doesn't take away from being in person. And when you first got on our Q&A, where we were teching with Randy, you asked me about the State Theater. So obviously you used to live right here in Happy Valley, where we do not have a drunk bus. I had to explain to the students here that what a drunk bus is. We had a drunk bus even at Brandeis.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. Have you been on the Blue Loop?
No, no, but they really didn't know what it was, and we called it the drunk bus. So it's interesting that Kent, you also called it the drunk bus there. So just a couple more things that I'm curious about, be nice to share with people, Brandon, is what I liked about this group. I looked at all of your backgrounds, and y'all coming from different sides of the filmmaking world. And I almost said ladder, but I don't like the idea that it's one on top of another, but just like coming at this project from all these different backgrounds, from set decorating, from PAing, and like being and in your case, working in advertising, Ian, right? Or marketing. And it is fascinating. It's always magic, no matter who you are and how much money you have or don't have. It's magic when a film comes together. And I just love that all four of you are here with us. So it's not either just one director or producer. Not that wouldn't be enough. That'd be awesome. But we're really looking at all these different things. So I want to make sure we get to that part, because a lot of the people listening are actually students, and they're making their way, or not even students, but people trying to get started in the film industry. So I'd love to hear some more about that. So maybe Brandon, talk a little about what you ended up with on screen versus maybe where you thought you were, for better or worse. Like maybe Charlie Tahan brought something I'm sure he did, to the project that took it in a whole other direction. You're like, oh shit, that's great. Yeah, let's run with that. But what was the beginning of it? I know you said this was your experience. You drove the bus. You probably had a boss just like the one this guy had. There might have been someone, you probably made this character up, Pineapple, but was there someone like him? And then take us into the actual craft oriented piece of it and how it may have changed or not once you saw it on screen.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, we've talked, I guess I'll start. I mean, well, the one thing that we've talked about a lot, in making this film and our own short films and even music videos and everything that we started out, which, we can go into as well, but is like making concessions for the budget and the creative idea. So like that's something that I think a huge thing that we learned. And Eric, you really helped us throughout that process as well. To not like forfeit the integrity of what we wanted to make. But like I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't made a $100 million. Maybe there's less concessions, but I feel like there's always concessions for some. So I guess not being rigid would be a lesson to like young film students. Is like know what your story is and what the core story is, and don't stray from that. But know that like how you get there is there's many different routes to get to that point. If that makes sense.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, because I'll give you an example. For Drunk Bus, we were told, and I'm not pointing fingers at you, Eric. This is not towards you, but we were told, let's maybe get a school bus, or because I guess our bus was kind of hard to find at first. Maybe it's not a short bus, but like a shorter bus, and whatever. And we were like, no, it has to be this bus, and we did not, stray from that, and I'm glad we didn't, because
it takes on a character. It's literally a character in the film.
It's a character. That's what John said all the time. Yeah. So there's that, but then we had to cut scenes or something else that didn't really matter as much. So know what matters, I guess. But then
What scene?
go
ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh no. What was your question? What scene?
Yeah, when you say we had to cut scenes, that leads to which scene do you miss the most?
Oh,
that fell on the living room floor.
John, I mean, you look like you want to tell this one.
No,
we both know the scene.
The one you'll never forgive X, Y, or Z for making you cut. That one.
Well, I was actually going to back up a little bit because you asked in the initial question, one of the layers of that question was, you brought up Pineapple, and was that based on a real person? And
yeah.
Pineapple was the real person. So Brandon went to college with Pineapple, and Pineapple was his actual security guard. When we started writing the story, we knew we were going to have a character that was based on him, and we started thinking about, well, who can we get to play this guy, and how are we going to deal with the makeup? And we were like, fuck it, let's just get the real guy. And
wow.
Worked with him from day one to really craft a sort of more animated caricature version of himself into what this on-screen Pineapple person would act like. So, that, and I bring it up because it's a kudos to him. He really went for the project and gave everything that he had to give us a really great performance. And it was, he was fantastic. But
I don't know how I missed that. There is such an authenticity to their relationship. So I'm not entirely surprised. Of course, that's kudos to both of your directing and the support that you had behind you to get your vision made. But I am hugely moved when there's a crossover between, like you were saying, Brandon, you got to know what your core story is. And usually it comes from a place that's real to the writer or director or both. Mm-hmm. And I think not only did you stay true to it, but casting from it is great. I mean, you're speaking to someone that does do that. And there's a number of films in the festival that do it as well. And I love when it works. I think, and this one worked so well, I somehow didn't catch that in even some of the stuff I've read about it. So that is an incredible call that you made as a team, or fought for perhaps in a back room office somewhere. And I'm sure Pineapple really appreciated stepping up to the plate on that experience.
Yeah, I mean, we never argued over Pineapple being in that row. We only argued over the bus. And that's where I was going with that, John. I was leading up to that, damn it.
Okay, so I think the lead up was deleted scenes, right? Well, we didn't really have too many deleted scenes. I mean, everything that was on the page is pretty much in the movie, except scenes are shorter. So we had to cut some scenes down, but I don't think anything was really removed and hit the floor.
Gotcha.
Not that I can remember, but there's some great moments that we lost where, the more characters talk, the more context you get, the more you feel, you get a feel for these people. And, for me, that I regretted losing some dialogue bits because
gotcha.
There's just great exchanges between characters that lets you know who they are and gives you the audience context, but pretty much everything is there.
That's awesome.
And I think too, that's such a testament to the script. Chris Molinaire, the screenwriter, you guys worked with them for about 5 years or so to really make the best script that you could. And I remember reading early drafts, even to the final draft, and just thinking this is so well realized. Every scene, was a set piece and it had its purpose and it drove the plot forward. And it was just, the movie was there on the page, and I remember seeing the first cut and that's what it was. So didn't really feel like anything was really glaringly omitted.
And people say that a lot. Oh, it was right there on the page. What does that mean? Because you literally had that experience. First, it was seen even as a rough draft, and then you saw it come to life over the years. What drew you in, other than this is a cool story, it's funny, it speaks to my college experience or not. I could see an audience, but what is that for you? Because I assume your core story would be different while you were into it than Brandon's.
I mean, I think that the story itself is just so well realized. The writer and John and Brandon knew the story that they wanted to tell. And I think that they were passionate about it, so that the way that they wrote it really came across as you were reading it. But I think for me, I always told John that I was just drawn to the heart. There's college stories, even a story like this on the surface is not an original story. And I think what you do with it and what you do with the characters and the situations that you put them in is what can help distinguish the film from, others in the genre. And I think repeatedly in our reviews that the film has gotten was that said, it's familiar territory, but it drives a new course. And I think that that's the best thing that you can say about the film.
And that was the idea. That was always like, for me, it was always about, let's do crass things. Let's do scatological humor, which I just learned the meaning of that word recently.
Enlighten us. Tell us what scatological humor is.
Wait, how did you use it out of context? Like you were using it to describe something else, but what was it?
No, I know. It was scatological, like scatterbrained. I put scattered brain with scatological, which it's a fair.
It's relatable if you.
It doesn't matter. Anyways, my point is that so for me it was like mixing the tropey comedies that we love and grew up on with real life moments with like scatological humor, all kind of fucking all together.
It's after hours at the film festival. You do your thing.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, after watching this movie, you could say whatever you want, really.
Yeah,
but
true.
Ian, the
That's
reason I was
true.
asking you this, and we'll come to Eric on this too, but they always say, obviously it's the passion, the core story, and, it has to be something that speaks to human connection. All this is very true about storytelling, and it has to go to the core. I love what you said about the heart and the emotion of it. For me, the film, of course, is about love and how to try and like quash these feelings that you don't want to have come up. And then how to quash it, of course, is the way that you wrote it and the storyline and the characters you've created, including the bus. But it's about love. I like that you said that. But they always say to follow the money, right? And Ian, you're the executive producer, right?
Well, in title, sure.
In title alone, regardless. How do you pitch something like this in a back room? How do you make people believe that it's worth investing in?
I mean, I'll let John handle that part of it, but I think where it comes from the distribution angle is, for us, we wore our passion for the film on our sleeve, and we were committed to do anything and everything for the film. So, in terms of, if you want to sell and, sell a distributor, it was showing our passion for it, making sure that they were aligned with the film, but being so available and that we would do anything to help the release. So, but in terms of getting it made and getting the capital for that, I'll kick it over to John.
Yeah.
So when we had our first shareable draft, we shared it with the studio, who immediately said, we want to make this with you. And we couldn't believe that it was actually that simple. And 3 years later, after trying to squeeze the budget and figure things out, they decided to step away from the project. So we're kind of sunk. And I had a buddy from high school who, he asked what I was up to, and I said, we're trying to make this movie. And he said, oh, can I read the script? And we used to make like stupid home movies when we were freshmen, and like we would blow things up and try and emulate Terminator 2 or, set G.I. Joes on fire and things like this. And he said, I'd love to read it. And when he read it, he came back a couple months later and said, how do I help you make this? Wow. And it was the most generous, incredible offer. And that kind of got the ball rolling. And he was one of the major, investors. And then another buddy from a second high school that I went to, he was also interested. And when he heard that ball was rolling, he said, I want to get involved. He put a smaller team of investors together, and all they really had to do was read the script. There weren't really too many suggestions made to change it. We had a couple of conversations from some of the investors we didn't know personally who questioned a couple of things, but for the most part, it was like, go make this movie. We trust you. And we have really nothing to do, to alter it. So it was like a perfect scenario. And that was,
and I mean, also, I mean, that if I may tee it over to Eric, who really kind of helped rein all that. I mean, Eric, please tell us.
No, I think it helps that John had such great, generous, friends. And, at the end of the day, like, if you think you're going to write or, get a project going and thinking that some, big studio or, executive producers are going to be all over and it's going to run through Hollywood, the cavalry is not coming. So
no, the cavalry's not coming.
It's not going to be there for you. And you're going to be hopes and dreams of, having a filmmaking career. And, even though this is Brennan and John's first feature, they've been, making awesome music videos, Funny or Die stuff, big national campaigns. And, they had work behind them, and then reaching out to their network of people that want to see them succeed. And that's huge, and so as you start, making short films or music videos with your friends' bands or whatever you're doing, you have the, capability now with the technology. Look around you for potential help, and then, build the team of, talented artists around it. And we had a lot of talent on this film for such a small budget.
I love what you're saying, Eric, because I think, it's pretty much what I heard with what Jonathan was saying. Basically it's like, I got the studio, yes. And then so many people have this story in the film industry where then the script just sits there. And then it's who the friend that reads it.
We never imagined that that's how it was going to pan out.
It is. It's what it's who and they say write what but know you're right. So if it's not your story, like where you're coming from, Brandon, know what you're writing, do the research or connect, like Ian was talking about. It spoke to me. It's got to speak to you. But Eric, I love what you're saying about don't think it's sitting there. Wait, there isn't a plug you pull and it just it just happens. Because, and I would love to hear you talk more about this when it comes to your desk, right? And you look at these people's previous work, right? And it's not just that they made music videos or worked with Funny or Die or made other work. It's the vision and the voice of their work. Mm-hmm. So it's not just go ahead and make these things. It's go ahead, make these things and speak your truth. And so that people can understand what's the point of view? Is this person going to step up for what they believe on the set? Do they understand what the term core story really means? Because I see it in the trajectory of their work. So maybe you could talk about that, like what comes to your desk or inbox or computer or clips, and you're looking at it and you're going, oh my God, I can totally see this meets this because of this person's work and where they're going with the script.
Well, yeah, it definitely starts with the script. That's the first thing you see. And then you got to look at the team. And the thing that I loved about Brennan and John's work, it wasn't, a lot of comedies are very like glossy and it's like, looks like a network and it's like over covered and it's, it's like you do this, that. And their work was incredibly funny, but then beautiful. And they wanted to instill that, with Luke, the cinematographer, and, had all these different ideas and the juxtaposition. And I'm like, that's cool. And really letting them, be creative and flex their muscles here. And honestly, I just supported that the best that I could.
That's seriously the best kind of producer. What'd you say?
I said, clearly we had some concessions that we had to make, but it's not problems that arise, it's creative solutions, and how can we creatively tell this maybe a different way, or is there another way we could do this? Can we maybe shave a day or, cut this little bit that might be a little more expensive? Can we tell it a different way? Mm-hmm. But they did their thing.
Yeah, no, totally. I guess that's the point, right? So by looking at your project as an example, right? You take something on and this team is going to fight for what they believe in, and what they believe in has longevity to it. It's not like just because I want to make another Terminator this or this kind of thing, or I want to emulate, as you were saying, John, a different kind of genre or whatever. They have a point of view and you're like, all right, I'm going to end up in having to make creative solutions, as you call it, or troubleshoot, or something, you know, you're running out of light or whatever it is, you're going to have to come up with a quick solution. You understand where they're coming from, you know what they're going to fight for, and you can actually have that conversation. I think that's very helpful. I agree. I think the film is not only funny, not only does it feel supernatural, the dialogue, as you were saying, but it's beautifully shot. The color choices, we paired it with a short, and it's funny that you mentioned horror earlier, John, because we paired it with a short called You're Dead, Helen. It's a French movie, so it's a different title in French. Go figure. And it's also takes place at night. So you have these two films, and the blocking is called On the Move. They're both, the guy's trying to shirk his dead girlfriend. He wants her back so much. Is this sounding familiar? But he also doesn't want her the way she is right now. She's dead, and it's haunting him. And when I saw these two films together, I was like, oh my God, they're telling the same story in completely different ways, semi-different genres. I mean, you should check them out together. And I think this block really speaks to so many of the things that you were all sharing tonight. Like, it's also super well produced, beautifully lit, and the heart, you know, Ian, and the heart there is there. And I love seeing, you know, what is now, not that this is a problem, but a complicated character, because straight white male, right? And you look at our team tonight, right? And to see that vulnerability and to see the diversity within that character, because I always find, you know, I'm in a town here, I'm from Brooklyn, so this isn't what I'm used to. And I moved here to Central PA, which is predominantly white, and so is the student body, and Ian can attest to this. And so a lot of the super important conversation that's going on about breaking ceilings and so on, and making sure that there's diversity and representation and direction and so on, that doesn't mean you can't tell a story like Drunk Bus or You're Dead, Helen, in this case. It means to get even deeper, like you were saying, Brandon, into that core story. So I just wanted to reflect that back to you. Ian, I would love for you to share some memories here of Penn State. I thought you said earlier that you were a terrific student. Is that what you were saying, straight A?
I mean, you know, yeah, but the professors back in 2010 were a lot more lenient, I'm sure, than they are now. No, I was just saying earlier, I remember sleeping through Rashomon in the State Theater. It was a great nap.
Dude, don't ever admit that again.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just kidding.
I always say that, and I think I'm quoting another director, and I'll have to try and remember, but it's so late at night and we're day 2 in a festival. But someone has said, I am butchering this quote, and I'm not even telling you whose quote it is, so it's really bad, that some of the best films are the ones you nap through. So I think that's okay. And Rashomon's intense.
I think Mick G said that.
Who?
Mick G. I'm kidding. I was trying to think of the most horrible director. Sorry. I don't know if he's watching, but
you never know.
Yeah.
The Center Film Festival, brand new, hot off the press, and yet somehow he might be watching. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is how to get the interest of cast on the level of someone like Charlie Tahan. How did that happen? What do you think spoke to him? I know you can't speak for him, but where did that decision start getting made?
Do you want to answer this, Brandon?
I'll say a little bit. You probably can do a better job, but I mean, it's kind of tied to the sort of process, the whole process of making the film, which is like, we've been doing this for quite a few years, and we had a whole different cast initially, when we were ready to go, and then that deal went away, and we made it with Eric this time. And so Charlie was someone that was given to us from our casting director, and we looked through, and we just kind of like, John and I just kind of really started getting infatuated with Charlie and his work, and we watched Super Dark Times, which is a great film. Obviously, we're Ozark fans like everybody else, but it was really, for me, it was really Super Dark Times that I was like, oh yeah, this is a kid I want to work with. And then we met him, and he he was was he 19 years old at the time, John?
20.
I think I think he was 19 because he turned 20. I don't know, 1920. He was
It was
young.
1920. The year was 1920.
But we just, like, when we met with him, we just hit it off, and he's so like wise beyond his years. You know, he's very smart. He's a super smart kid, and like we were referencing films and stuff that maybe a lot of kids his age wouldn't even know, or you know. And he's just a great guy. And then when we put him next to and then we gave him an offer, and he said yes. But when we put him with Pineapple, we brought Pineapple, who lives in Austin, Texas. We brought him up to New Jersey, beautiful New Jersey, and we got them together and had a rehearsal, and just we filmed it. We should probably release it at some point. It might be fun to release that footage, but like we just saw the chemistry between them, and it was just like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Okay, this is the moment we knew we actually had a good movie, not just a movie.
Yeah. The other cool thing about Charlie is he's very funny, and he's got a really like good but weird sense of humor.
Very specific.
Yeah,
I love that.
He really understood the script and understood the tone and perspective of our sense of humor. And once we had our first meeting with him, you know, there was no real awkward moment. We were kind of all just riffing on the same dumb things, or like trying to one up each other with dark humor. And that was the thing with Charlie, is that he had been tied to all this dark stuff. It was like Ozark and Super Dark Times, and he wanted to do something a little lighter, and he wanted to try comedy, and that was why he picked the script. So and then when we started working with him, we started to realize like he just has a very natural expression with comedy, and he's really good physically. He knows what to do with his body and timing, and you know, exaggerating, and it was great.
So good. I could see him navigating through it, and I don't mean I can see him in that, you know, I wasn't feeling like he was in the moment. He was, but I can see him navigating this character. And it must have been interesting, Brandon, to see somebody play you in a way and notice if there are similarities or differences.
Yeah, I never saw it as like my biography. It was just based on the job. Yeah, I wasn't as I was better looking than him.
Clearly,
well.
yeah.
So that's a big problem. But I think what
that's the concessions. Those are the concessions you were talking about. Right? It's been really hard to find someone who even remotely resemble.
It was very tough.
Behind the wheel. Yes, I'm sure. What were you going to say? And I rudely interrupted.
Oh no, not at all. I was just gonna say I think because Pineapple is so unique, I think Charlie being equally as unique in his own way was important.
Absolutely. John, when you were describing Charlie's approach, I was seeing Pineapple. Like they really did seesaw. I think they did a really terrific job. I have two more questions. We have to wrap up though. First, I wanted you to talk a teeny bit about co-directing. How do you co-direct? I mean, clearly you have chemistry.
Clearly we direct poorly.
Really?
It shows in the material.
I wouldn't suggest it to anybody out there in the audience.
It's like, do you say, I'll be directing the cast, you handle this, or do you just kind of both stand and hover over the monitor?
I think
we both do nothing. All right, that's my last joke on this. No.
Eric does all the work, and Ian's behind the scenes making it all happen.
Yeah, we're just chills. There's no real answer to the question. I mean, it's like jazz kind of, you know, every day, every session is kind of just free form. And, you know, some days we'll decide, you know, someone's going to drive in the talent seat and someone's going to stay by camera. But then after a take, we'll confer notes. Who's going to talk to them? I'll do it. Okay, we go. You know, I think inherently we both gravitate towards different elements. Like, I've always been sort of drawn to the art side of things. So, you know, a lot of the art direction and costumes and visual things. Brandon is really good with the storytelling, the editing, you know, seeing the flow of things. But at any given time, we'll tag team, and yeah, there's no like rigid formula to it.
Yeah,
I
there's
think it's
definitely
just having someone to. I was just gonna say, I think it's just someone having to have someone bounce something off of that you trust, you know, and gets to a better place. It's about as simple as that for me, because it's, you know, we've been doing it for so long that it's sort of second nature, and of the process, like the nuts and bolts of how we do it. But like, I think the reason why we do it is to make a better product. And I think it's more important because we do commercials to pay our bills. But
exactly.
I think it's more important to be able to have that on a film, because it's so subjective, and there's so many different variables of what could happen or what makes sense. It's just so subjective. So it's great to like collaborate on something that's more important than a baby diaper or diarrhea medicine.
Yeah, but that's what puts the food on the table. Interesting connection.
No,
you know,
Those
but
are
it lets
the
you
real ones.
do your projects that you love. You know, it lets you do what you love. Speaking of collaboration, last question: what's next for all of you? Are we going to see another project from the four of you?
Highly likely. We're like reading stuff, pitching stuff, writing stuff.
So students should send you stuff? I'm just kidding.
What's that?
So everyone should just start sending you scripts, huh? Hey, you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
True. We're just cooking various pots until one of them, you know, kicks off.
Gotcha.
So
it's got to be the right one, the one that touches
shooting
you.
a commercial tomorrow. That's really exciting.
What do we
For diarrhea.
Sweet.
It's for diarrhea. It's
It's a
not
PSA.
anti-diarrhea. It's not
It's
anti-diarrhea.
a PSA.
it's a new thing coming out. It's going to hit the markets. It's going to be huge. It's called diarrhea. Sorry.
What about you, Eric? What are you working on?
Virus.
Actually, these 2 days have been the first couple of days of pre-production of the next film. It's stars Jesse Eisenberg and Adrian Brody and Riley Keough.
And you're on the phone with us right now. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, so I'll be boots on the ground tomorrow for that project. It's
actual boots or just like tennis shoes?
Boots. I typically wear boots.
You should know that by now, Brandon.
Just clarify.
No, we start filming after the Thanksgiving holiday.
That's awesome.
Go through the beginning of the year. So it's a solid project. We're excited for it. And then
awesome. We'll look out for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And what about you, Ian?
Like I said, I keep busy with a lot of filmmakers and distributors and entertainment labels, and I do a lot of work with documentaries. Is kind of my bulk of the work. But right now I've had a film open today. I've got another one opening next week, and it's a pretty busy month. But awards season's coming up, so we have a few exciting documentaries that are going to be going for awards campaigns, which is fun.
What's the film that opened today?
It's called Missing in Brooks County. It's a very, very compelling documentary about border crisis in Texas and people who go missing once they cross the border. It's very, very interesting. It just released on iTunes. Nominated for Critics' Choice Best Documentary. Also have Matt Heinemann's The First Wave, which is a Nat Geo and Neon release opening in 2 weeks. He did Cartel Land and City of Ghosts. So it's a fun time, busy time for docs. But otherwise, I really loved working on this project, and I like to flex creative muscle. When I was in school, I wanted to be a screenwriter and a producer. So it's kind of 10 years later, hopefully starting to happen. But, I keep in such great touch with John and Brandon and Eric. We're always talking about projects. Brandon lives 2 blocks away from me in Jersey suburbs. We play golf once a week and talk about the scripts that never make it to life. So
it's the way to go until one does. Well, good luck with for all of you with what you're working on, even if it's the diarrhea commercial or about trying to change awareness and lives on immigration issues. There's a number of films that actually deal with that subject, John, I'm saying, Ian, in our festival. One of them is Aguilas, which just played tonight. It's set in Arizona. So check those out. Look out for their next projects. It was so great to spend some time with all of you. I could spend a whole other hour even if I had to. No, I would love to. I like the big poster on one side and then your mini drunk bus. Did you have to dig that up and your hat?
It's a blue. It's a
dig it out of
Blu-ray.
a box somewhere.
It's a Blu-ray and my lawn mowing cap.
Okay, it really is. Okay. What were you going to say, John?
I was going to say, are there no questions from the 2 audience members?
Oh, or do we have 2 on Facebook?
I don't even know. Probably 0.
I don't see any questions, but you never know. I'm sure they have questions. They just don't know it yet. But I'll keep you posted, let you know how it goes. You're one of 2 straight out comedies. There are no questions. In the festival, and the second one is Joshua Leonard, who's also from State College. He was raised here, and so his film that we're showing is Fully Realized Human. So between these 2 films, I think it's a pretty awesome representation of what comes out of this area in different ways, like from the producing side or the directing side. It was so awesome to meet you all, and we shall, I'm sure, stay in touch. L'chaim, have a great night, and I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know how the screening goes.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
I wish we could meet in person. My God, the festival will be so much more fun if we can actually we're going to beat this pandemic. We're going to have to.